Hey guys, I'm back with another candle review, and this time around it's for the 7-ounce single wick red roses candle from Malone. I know, totally random. I don't normally review candles like this on my channel, but I've been kind of bored with Bath& Body Works lately and just going through my massive candle stash and kind of like just reviewing them as I burn them. And so that's why you've seen a few Homeworks candles here and there, and then obviously this Jo Malone one here as well. It is Valentine's Day season, and that's usually when Jo Malone tends to promote the red roses fragrance anyway, so possibly relevant in case you're interested in this fragrance. Of course, this is a luxury candle, so it is $70 for 7 ounces, which is quite pricey. I probably wouldn't buy a candle like that anymore, but my past self, I guess, used to indulge in luxury candles. That's kind of a leftover of that phase or era, and so here we are. So yes, the notes on this read lemon, red roses, accord, and honeycomb. This is your like exquisite, quintessential rose fragrance that you would expect from like a luxury candle level fragrance. A lot of the luxury candle market rose fragrance kind of have a similar fragrance to this. The Diptyque roses are also kind of similar to this as well. It's just that really super juicy, awesome, bright roses fragrance, just that true blue red rose fragrance that you can come to expect from a rose fragrance such as this. And it kind of captures the bright, juicy sweetness of a rose, but also the perfumey quality, and then it also captures the like green stem of it as well. They say the red roses accord is inspired by 7 of the world's most exquisite roses, so it does indeed capture like all the different facets that a rose fragrance captures. It's most certainly in here. If I had to compare it to another rose fragrance from like Bath and Body Works, I would say maybe Tea Rose shares a similar bright freshness to the Red Roses fragrance, but it also has a little bit of that green note in there as well that I think Tea Rose would be similar, most similar to this, but this is still very distinctly like that like luxury candle level type of rose fragrance that I really enjoy. It's then paired indeed with a lemon fragrance. It gives it a very zesty, citrus brightness to it. It gives a little bit of a zing in there, but it also gives a little bit of its fruity sweetness in there as well. And it just makes the red roses fragrance even like juicier. And then lastly, it is paired with a honeycomb note that also gives it a natural honeyed sweetness. It's vaguely and subtly in the background of the candle that I get here and there, but I do find it to be a little bit more prominent and strong on the actual like fine fragrance perfume or cologne that you might use of red roses from Jo Malone. The dry down of this particular fragrance on my skin was so heavy on the honeycomb that it actually kind of just smelled like urine on my skin after it was done. So I didn't love the way that the fine fragrance dried on my skin, but it's not quite as urine in the candle, but it does give a slight natural honeyed sweetness to the fragrance. And it really is just this bright, juicy, sweet rose that still maintains that perfumey quality that we all know and love from a rose, but then has a little bit of a green quality to it as well as that lemon and the honey. And that's pretty much what this red roses fragrance smells like. I think the Kringle candle also had like a red roses fragrance at once, which was in the similar route as this. It's just once again that true like red rose type of exquisite rose fragrance. And that's pretty much it for the fragrance on this. But the one caveat with this fragrance, and it also kind of goes into performance, is that when you light it, it smells divine on cold, but when you light it, and I also had the same exact experience with the Diptyque Roses fragrance, is that when you light it, just when the flame and the wick interacts with the wax, there's like this distinct chlorine fragrance to it that I really don't enjoy, that's very strong and actually off-putting at times. I don't know why I just always pick that chlorine note up from both the Diptyque one and this one. They both did the same thing where there's like this overpowering chlorine note somewhere in the background that was just kind of off-putting. Maybe you might not notice it, but for me, it was quite noticeable, and it's the reason that I both did not enjoy the Diptyque one and the Jo Malone Red Roses as much as I would have, based on how beautiful and gorgeous it was on cold. Like, both of the candles are just absolutely exquisite on cold, but when you go to light it, there's like this weird chlorine undertone that I just really don't know why it's in there, but it must be something with this type of rose fragrance oil that interacts with the wick and the flame. So just putting that out there, and that chlorine note is kind of what makes me like hesitant to recommend this, just because both the Diptyque one and Jo Malone one did this. So I don't know, kind of just take that as you will, but that's my experience on this candle. Moving on to the performance, this one is pretty much done. So obviously I've burned many, many, many hours of this candle. This one tends to soak quite a bit. The flame on this is always quite vicious, as you see there. And there's actually like a black smudge you see up at the front there. If that is indeed the soot buildup from this, I oftentimes would have to light it, and then it would soot so much that I would have to extinguish it and retrim it, and then do that thing over and over again for all the burns. Where I would have to light it, it still soots, and then I have to trim it. So like you would have to pretty much trim this quite generously for it to not soot. I do, once again, discretion advised. I use a Illumilid from Yankee Candle and set it right on top of this, so it gives it a little bit more of a controlled flame, and there's less draft going into the flame right there. And that kind of makes the wick a little bit more controlled, but you can see in this footage that it is indeed putting off soot. So just either trim it very well, or once again, using at your own discretion, use a Illumilid from Yankee Candle and set it on top there, and it kind of helps it to pull out faster as well. On the end burns, as you see here, it took about 2 hours to pull out completely, but I would say on the beginning burns, it definitely took much longer. This is like a kind of like a hard paraffin type wax is the texture on this, so it takes usually anywhere good from like a good 3 to maybe 4 hours to pull out at the beginning burns, and then down to maybe like 2 hours once the candles started to get going. So that's kind of performance on this. As for the throw, it's actually pretty strong. Unfortunately, the chlorine note is pretty strong for me, that I didn't love that part of it, but it was a good, I would say at least 5 to a 6. I could definitely smell it adequately. Like once it starts pulling out, it's actually quite strong and potent for a single wick candle. That I would say definitely good like 5 to a 6, and then probably more down to like a 4 or a 5 in an open concept area, but still pretty strong for a single wick that I can't really complain too much about the throw. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the performance on this. Overall, at $70 for 7 ounces, no, I don't think I would repurchase this candle again. And if I could go back in time, would I have purchased it? Probably not. I think the biggest, I guess, downside of this candle would be that chlorine smell that I got. It smells great on coal, but the chlorine smell when it's burning is quite off-putting. The chlorine smell does kind of fade away as the wax pool grows larger, because it's kind of like the wax pool is combating that chlorine smell that I get from the wick and the flame. So it does go away a little bit, but still kind of a bummer nonetheless. And also the fact that it does soot pretty excessively for a luxury candle is kind of annoying too, because the black soot does really billow off of this and accumulates on the side of the jar if you don't watch it. So I don't love that either. So no, I don't think I would repurchase it. And that is pretty much it for this candle review. Let me know if you tried this one out before, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.